Yeah, we get to 5:31, that's another hour.
Megan, have you met Mary?
No, I haven't. Hello,
Hi, I'm Megan.
nice to meet you. I work for economic development and planning, and I use some admin for the year too. Okay, nice to meet you. Me too.
You know anybody else?
Mary, we've never met in person.
I subpoenaed you.
Think about it.
You complained about it.
100%
Yep,
to come in and stand there and say, yes, this is a Waverly record thing.
yep, but you did testify.
I did.
And-
You sure? You won.
Yes, we did, we did win that case.
Okay.
Yes.
Did.
Ready?
Now that you say that, I remember. Yeah.
All right, so here we go. This is a February meeting of the Tioga IDA. And Christine, would you do a roll call?
Kevin Gillette,
Yes.
Mark Stabright. Here. Tracy Mino.
Yes.
John Ward.
Yes.
Eric Knowles,
Here.
Mary Johnson.
Yes.
James.
We're gonna start off tonight with the privilege of the floor. We have Bob Farrell and Corey Green representing Wego Athletic and Central School District.
Start.
Yes.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for having us come in today. We're here to talk about the challenges of pilots and its relationship to schools and school budget and tax law and tax cap. Forgive me if you already know some of this information. I just don't know for sure who understands how the relationship works and the challenge that presents. But I'm going to present it anyways. If you already know it, you want to say, I already get it, you don't need to do that. Let's just get back to it. You can tell me that anytime. But I figured I would take that through because I just don't know who knows what about it. So I'll pass this around. This is from a presentation that was given to our Board of Education about a month ago for what we call our long-range projection, which gives a long-range financial projection of the school district over a 4 to 5 year period. In that projection, we estimate what will be our allowable tax levy cap. Now, what is out publicly and usually what people think about the tax cap is that it's a 2% tax cap, that it's just always 2% and you can't go over 2%. That is true inside of the calculation. It is not true beyond the calculation. In fact, the cap can be much higher than 2%. And there are varying factors that affect it. All right. What I'm putting in front of you here are the ways that the calculation actually work. And I just want to take you through it so you can understand the relationship pilots have with the tax cap calculation and why it's a challenge for us. So if you look at the first page here with the tax levy limit calculation, there are 3 components really. The first one is what is called the allowable growth factor. It's a calculation provided to us by the state in which takes a look at the assessment across the whole our tax base and sees any physical buildings or any physical structures that have increased the tax base. And they call that the allowable growth factor. All right. And that can increase the tax cap calculation to allow you to raise taxes. The second piece are pilots. All right. Pilots, you put in last year's pilot amount. So any payments in lieu of taxes, you can see there's the 22-23 amount, which were paid. And then you see at the bottom is the 23-24 pilots. When we get down to it, there'll be a delta between those two, and I'll explain why that matters. The other part is the capital levy, in which that really is what we can levy on the tax for capital expenditures, mainly our debt service. So what we pay in debt service on bonds for capital projects. Those usually offset each other in the calculation, and they do not have much of a factor to it, but those are the 3 main parts. So when you look at the second slide there, you'll see that what I want to point out to you is in step 3, you'll see pilots of the current year is at 4,070,276. If you go down to step 7, pilots next year will be 3,723,904. The difference between those two is $365,000 and $365,895 dollars. That represents the pilot payment for Best Buy that has been on pilot for 20 years or whatever it has. What is happening is the pilot is ending, and therefore it has to return to the tax rolls. And what happens is it goes into the calculation this way, but in turn, what it does is it makes our tax levy allowable rate to go up significantly. All right. So when you look at this calculation, what is happening is that difference. Plus the other factor is actually we have a fairly high allowable tax-based growth factor for whatever reason. So that in step 2, 1.0088, something within our boundary lines has been built that is built up the tax base. Whatever brick and mortar, we don't know what that is. We don't know what that is. That has increased it a little bit, not too much, right, from the previous tax levy, but it's really the pilot payment that's changing it. So that makes the allowable levy limit to go up to about 18,837,000. Now, what that means, if you flip the page, is that our allowable levy limit can go up $936,000, or a percentage increase of 5.23%. Of that 5.23%, you see the next slide down, 346 of it is the Best Buy pilot. Now, the only way we can get that money in revenue is if we actually go out at 5.23%. All right. Our concern and our challenge is passing a budget at 5.23%. So
That's gonna piss off a lot of people.
Yeah.
What's it gonna do to your tax rates when they come out? What's the impact on the tax rate?
the true tax rate,
True tax rate, so per thousand, that's your big number, right? Like, 'cause
Yeah.
taxes can go up, and people's taxes don't move. because
now,
of
so let's,
Right.
so likelihood is that even though what we would have to explain to the public is the following. Actually, your taxes aren't really going up 5.23%. 2% of that is actually Best Buy. Don't worry about it. Right?
Yeah.
You're actually going to increase 3.19% or whatever it is that we're allowed to. The board won't likely do that anyways. We typically stay around 2 as a board and when we ever raise taxes. So when that happens, it's lost revenue for the school district and it's hard for us to recoup it. In our historical, I've been with the school district for 16 years. I have only seen it once pass over 2% in my time. It's not an easy pass over 2 because people have in their mind that it's a 2% tax cap. Where it actually is a 2% tax cap is inside the calculation, and you'll see in step 5 on the first page. That's what they mean by the allowable growth factor. When they say 2% tax cap, they're talking about that 2%. And that's usually the CPI. It's the consumer price index. So right now, the consumer price index is actually much higher, but we're not allowed to go any higher than 2%. Right? And that's how the calculation works. So we had the same issue happen with Central New York Oil and Gas 2 years ago. We came to you then and said, that one's far worse. That one's $3.5 million. And the only way that we would have to recruit that is if we had a 19.5% tax increase. And we will be in that boat in 3 years from now when it comes back up again. And I'm highly likely to say that our budget will not pass at 19.5%.
So I think what, 3 years ago, we went out at our maximum allowable levy, which was 2.83%. And that failed.
Okay.
And that was without any pilots or anything. That was just what we were allowed to go out at. And for us, about 1% is what, about $168,000, $170,000 is about 1% of revenue for us.
So the challenge for us is that we have to figure out, without this being a pilot payment and on a pilot, it has to return to the rules and it puts us in this predicament. The question for you as a board is it possible to do what we did with Central New York Oil and Gas and extend the pilot? There's no lost revenue from what I understand on your end, or the town's end, or anybody and then that, it's the same payment,
Because they're at 100%.
they're on 100%. Correct?
That was the case with Central New York Oil and Gas. This one's a little different, only because their pilot payment was a lump sum, predetermined, so it wasn't percentage.
Right.
And they were actually overpaying because they won their assessed value grievance years ago. So they were paying 600,000 a year. But they would be. They
Talk to them
would
then.
be. Last year, they,
Wait for Joe to talk.
last year, if they paid 100% based on tax rates, they would have paid 496,000. 183, so we're talking like 104,000 gap there.
Mhm.
So that's in the mix here a little bit.
Gotcha.
I think
So,
what we would be considering would be taxing them at 100%. So we'd be giving up that roughly 100.
To clarify, so are you saying that if they return to the rolls, the payment is actually that?
Yeah, if they return to the rules, their payment in 2022 would have been 496,000. So it would be 104,000 less than their pilot payment. So distributions to all entities
Right.
would have been lower.
So that amount would have to be renegotiated, essentially.
So we can't ask them to obviously
Right.
pay more than 100%. They obviously didn't catch it
Right.
in the.
Yeah, they would
number of
actually
years.
benefit going back to roles.
Right.
Oh, but what we could consider would be.
Well, here's another difficulty. And this may be insurmountable, to tell you the truth. We've already deeded this back. They deeded it to us. Effective March 1st, it's on the tax roll. We don't do something and it's not quite clear what we do. And now if the assessor, did you say you knew who the assessor was?
Where's
So
This is in,
next is Denise, what's her name?
Small.
Isn't it?
whether they're cooperative. I've had a similar situation in Broome. And the assessor was very cooperative, but we didn't, we did a lease back, which is a little less complicated in terms of untying the bow, if you will. This, we have a deed from Best Buy. So they're gonna have to be super cooperative.
Right.
The assessor's gonna have to be cooperative. Now, we've got a little bit of a window because it's not till March 1st, and I mean, a lot of them will pretend like March 1st is an iron curtain date, but in a lot of ways it really isn't. It's really June 1st, after all the challenges that have gone through. So I don't quite know how this unfolds with respect to that, but it creates certainly another hurdle that you gotta get over in order to make this happen.
And just so you guys are aware, it's not like we just say, oh, well, we're gonna come and ask for forgiveness. We've been to different advocacy groups with NISBA, NISCUS, and we had Senator Akshar and Assemblywoman Lepardo at the state level try to take this issue to them, and it just kind of gets swept. And I know that there were some changes just recently in some of the pilot.
There's a new part of the statute that requires notice to everybody starting
Yeah.
2 years before the pilot. ends. That goes into effect next week, as it were.
But I think before everybody got here, what we were saying is it's a little bit different for us based on the size of our school
Yeah.
district and our tax base. There's probably some areas in Westchester, Long Island that have similar sized pilots, but it's not as big an impact to them when they come off.
Yeah, it is. It's hard. Absolutely.
But it's just gonna keep happening.
Yeah.
Because
It's not going away.
we can't keep doing this. To something New York Oil and Gas. We can't say, okay, we're gonna put you back on the pilot program for another 5 years or whatever. We can't do this to these folks. And then 3 years from now, do it to them again, or next year or whatever. There's the pilot for Crown Court and Seal, correct? That's gonna come due at some point.
It's like Lockheed.
What do we do with all these?
Lockheed's the number one.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, Lockheed's a big,
Yeah, that's a big,
that's next for you guys.
Totally get it, yeah.
I'm just trying not to talk about Lockheed right now.
but from our.
But trade rates, runs came in well.
Yeah.
They were good.
Yeah.
We don't have a magic wand here to
That's
wave
the
and
positive part of this.
to fix this problem. I don't know where we go.
No, I agree. There's really no mechanism other than.
There isn't.
It's a legislative
It's
problem.
a,
It's a
it's a
serious.
legislative problem, but from our end, it's a Rube Goldberg, you know. To get the assessor to, no, we had a situation in Broome. Where it was the Link building, which is a big
Sure.
piece of business for us, and we owned it individually, and the tenant, we sold it to someone. We gave them a pilot, and they figured they lost one of their, they lost L3, so they went to the assessor and said, how would we do on the roll? And he said, well, based on your rents, you'd be down here. So they said, hold us. They never came to us, they never asked. And all of a sudden, they went from section 8 to section 1, and a couple of months later, we found out. We found out in time that we could do something. Basically, what we did is refashioned the pilot and encapsulated what the assessor said he would do for them. So it kept it under the pilot program, but, you know, again, each one has a little bit different set of facts as to how you unwind it or put it back together.
I guess the question is, from a future standpoint, it's if they're at 100% or what, obviously there'd be some work with these guys. I don't understand the difference of everybody's being made whole at the end of the day based on how much they're being taxed. They're just sitting over here in this pot
This bucket.
versus this pot.
Yeah. Yeah, there really is, to the company, once they're, it's just, where's the check go?
Right.
Or actually, this check goes pretty much the same place. It's just what money, when you guys get it, what bucket does it go
Exactly. I get what you're saying, though, Tracy. It doesn't seem like there's any end in
Yeah,
sight.
we're like, it's between a rock and a hard place here.
I guess the question is, what does it do for the IDA and for the county in terms of those folks just staying on a pilot? Is that problematic, or is it just,
I think at some point it comes that way. I mean,
in? Well, there's no
general
prejudice.
population doesn't pay attention till they pay attention.
Mhm.
I know I'm being recorded, but it's the truth.
Right.
So sooner or later, someone's gonna say, how come that happened again?
Right.
You know.
How come that 20-year pilot
and I
turned into
agree,
30?
there's not an easy answer here, but I mean, at some point in time, we gotta jump off of. Here's the cliff, we gotta jump off at this time, because we held it back how many years? At some point in time, it's gonna become a
Well,
problem, right?
almost every pilot provides at year 20, year 15, whatever the end year is, even though you might not get put back in section 1, you go to 100%. So it's not like there's a savings or anything like that, or that there's a deficit on the side of the taxing.
In
Question
this case,
about,
there is $100,000 difference.
They're gonna pay less. I mean, even hypothetically, if you renegotiated the pilot, I'm sure they're not gonna agree to pay over 100%. For some reason they have. I mean, somebody didn't catch it there and they've been paying. over
Well, they
100%.
reassessed.
Well, they right.
reassessed, they never adjusted.
They never,
Pilot.
right, because when did they
So
you know when they agreed?
I have to pull it up, I can.
Because it's been a few years. It's not like it just happened. It's been going on for a while. But yeah, they've been basically giving up $100,000.
Right. So if they do go to the rolls, that's gonna get spread out amongst everyone else.
The two.
Town County School.
Right.
it doesn't, the true tax rate for individual residences is not seemingly gonna change based on that, though.
No.
It should not. That's
Nominal.
shouldn't.
I was just saying, you gotta run those.
The
that's what I was saying,
stabilization
but
rate,
that's-
whatever, how that,
Yeah,
the state
your
rate,
tax
which is out of our control, but. I guess here's another question about this with, and specifically the Central New York Oil and Gas. Knowing down the road, that's the big one. That's the one, like. That's a problem, right?
Yeah,
The school district can't give up $3.5 million of revenue.
It's a
So that would be,
$714 assessment that we carried forward.
and if that's out 3 years, or 4 years, or whenever it comes due, is there a way to walk them back to the rolls?
Like slowly.
Yes. Because if we're gonna have to do this, then I'd rather say to our board, they asked the option, our board asked that option. Is it an option for the IDA to work with Central New York Oil and Gas in some way to say, can we walk you back slowly over time? So that the tax impact on the levy with calculation isn't getting crushed all at once.
Yeah, it is something I say this, there's no statutory template, all right, for any of this. There's the tax cap statute, there's this and that, and this is an unintended consequence. There are steps we can take. Could we get our hands slapped in an audit? You possibly could. But at the end of the day, there's no financial prejudice anyone based on how you do it. And as I mentioned in the case of the L3, the taxes were going, the pilot payment was going down substantially just because they had lost L3 as a tenant, but the school district said, fine, we don't care. We just want to keep this in place. It means more to us to keep this in place than the lost revenue. So, you know, if you got to get the players on the same page. But, you know, and at some point, who is it? This is
This is,
Best Buy.
yeah.
You know, are they willing to do it? You know, again, it doesn't have a financial
4.34.
cost to them, but it has a severe consequence to the school district.
This sounds expensive
No,
from our standpoint.
no.
I was doing
This is a volunteer effort.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Write that down. That's recorded right there.
Recorded. So,
For the greater
okay,
good.
well, then, let's take it a step further, that, yes, I agree, if there's a way to soften that landing, then it's a good time to start talking about it. If we do something with Best Buy now and extend it, can we do that with the same thought in mind? How do we,
Wean it off.
yeah, how do we approach this one knowing the end? Instead of, you know, the kick the can down the road approach, which is what we did with the gas folks last time, you know, basically, call it whatever you want.
Right. But we should. that
Because
should
we didn't
start
have any
now.
end game there either, except what are we
Yeah.
gonna do next time?
I mean, that would be more, you guys would have the answer to that question.
Right.
What do the numbers,
What it would look like. if we-
what do the numbers have to be? And what is the arc of, say, a 5-year extension?
Right.
What does it look like? And can you do it in a way, if these statutes stay the same, that it ends without an abrupt, disadvantage to the school district?
I mean, we can certainly run that. Best Buy would be, less steps, because it's just less money. I mean, it wouldn't take that long to walk them off, and we're gonna do that. That would actually be a great scenario for us, because we can absorb that in the best way we can. But essentially over and gas is gonna have to be a lot longer. I even $3.5 million over 3 years is still, right, you're
Yeah.
still $1 million something, right? Like, that's significant money for the school district, so I don't know how, there would have to be two different durations between the two.
Right, but this will certainly give us a sort of blueprint on how to get it done.
It would,
Now, you can always punch in more years and, whatever that tolerance is, you can always punch those in, but
right,
if we're gonna do this, I personally, I'd rather figure out how to get out of it now. What's the end game now? And I think Joe's right. You guys got the you have more answers to this than we do, how to make it work. Because I think in the end, again, you said all the players gotta be on the same page.
We'll just get half of the waiver. How about that?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, when I worked with Chemung County, Ballcraft and CBS, it's done, it's done. Pay for it out of fund balance. Figure it out. I mean, that's just the reality of the world, you know what I mean? It's not the one everybody wants to hear, but I mean, that's, you got, well, that's the other option you're looking at, right? Like, I mean, that's it. It's fun. That's the thing you get back, because you keep more than 1%.
So if you, if this goes away and you guys get less money, or you get the same money, but you have to report this differently, is that the?
It's not, it's a matter of that we'd have to go out at a tax levy of 5.2%. In tax, the levy itself. Now, a portion of that levy would not affect you, the resident, of your house, only the portion of which is taxing, from what I understand about it, because it's going back onto the rolls and they're paying their full assessment. Does that make sense? They have that percentage of the tax roll they're paying, or the taxes.
But
They
the
pay.
people don't,
But the residents
the
don't.
taxpayers.
It should not
don't
affect them.
understand.
But the residents don't understand.
But it doesn't matter. You're gonna look at them and say, it's really not 5.2%. It's really 3%. Trust me. Like,
Right.
Well, and everybody,
that's just not gonna
everybody
happen.
pays attention. Everybody pays attention to that number, but it's really about what are the tax rates?
That's exactly right. The
And I'll-
levy
you know, a
itself
couple
is
years
not,
ago, we were 1.87%, and I think was it 4 out of the 5 towns actually went down,
correct.
taxes went
And
down,
one town went up.
one went up.
Mine was
So-
the one that went
Yeah,
up,
that's how
probably.
that
Mine
No,
always
yours
goes-
definitely went down for sure.
Yeah.
We always make sure of that.
Not pretty
Well, that's the
sure.
other interesting piece
Not
too. They
true.
think that we have control over
No.
the rates and the equalization piece. Like,
Corey,
you know, we don't.
this rule number 1, don't poke it in.
We gotta, after you leave, we gotta deal with it.
Yeah, so I don't, where do we go? You guys wanna
We-
come back with some thoughts on
Yeah, we
what
can share.
what you would perceive as a
I
soft
think we gotta
landing?
go back. We gotta go back to our board, and I think,
Yeah.
if I'm hearing you right, you want us to at least present you with the soft landing idea
I think
and
it-
its impact on us,
helpful.
and whether or not is that a next step? I wanna-
Yeah, I mean,
Like how many
Right.
years and at what percent you need
Yeah.
this?
I think we can go back and try and build something like that out.
Probably somebody needs to talk to Best Buy too and see if they're
Yeah.
interested in playing ball, because if they're not interested in playing ball, this thing's dead on arrival.
That's correct.
But if you give them, if you lower it down where it should be.
Well,
Well, they're gonna get that
They're gonna
regardless.
use that.
yeah, they,
And
we
ours-
have to explain to them.
They may ask
Wow,
for
that's
that
like a
money
piece.
back, you know. They can't.
I don't
Okay.
see the fees for everything.
I hope not.
Once it's done, once it's done, it's done.
Sorry.
But you're saying, Joe, that this property will be deeded back to Best Buy
It
on March
already
first
is.
or
it's been deeded back to them already
already?
last June.
Oh, okay.
So, and now how the assessor looks at this, I don't
With you.
know.
Effective date of March 1st.
Mhm.
Well,
That-
that
end of
is
the
the,
pilot.
that is the effective tax date, tax status date.
Okay,
And so if I sell my house in February, you know, on March 1st, the new guy gets the new tax bill and he's on the tax. Or if I build a building and it's completed in February, come March 1st, that's gonna be reassessed for the next round, the next tax.
So the smart thing to do is to finish it in March, at the end of March.
Yeah, yep.
always.
Although they can partially assess, but that's a whole different, they don't need to go down that road.
Yeah, been there, done that, okay.
So who's gonna call Best Buy?
That's Joe's issue.
Well, I think, you know, I think this is something Christine, I mean, Leanne certainly knows a bunch of the players up there. Do you know that? I don't know whether you,
I work with a lot of the corporate people. I don't work with their local.
it would be them. And again, we gotta touch base with the assessor. Here's here's the spot we're in.
Well,
Are you amenable to, even though I've given you a deed? And told you to put it back on the tax roll, are you amenable to holding up on that? And, you know, I guess I gotta think this through also, although there's no, tax abatement. If you do a tax abatement, it's more than $100,000, you gotta hold a public hearing. Is this a whole new deal? Or can we
Because it's Central New York.
rejigger the old one after we've deeded it? Boy, that's a good question.
yeah.
You know, again, it's not like it's anything different than if this conversation was going on, say, last May. You know, or it's the same conversation that we had with Central New York Oil and Gas people.
Like I said, it's a statute issue, whether it's you guys trying to battle out at 5.23% or us holding a public hearing, getting beat up for extending a pilot that has no financial impact. You know,
Right.
It's right.
So I guess that would be. You guys should work on some numbers.
Yep. we can
And
do
we
it.
should work on some contacts with Best Buy and the assessor.
Yep.
I'm gonna assume that the town and the county
They won't.
don't have a problem.
It
They
Wouldn't have a
won't
problem.
has no effect on us.
They'll get the same.
Right, so-
revenue.
So
That's why I was
obviously we
asking.
want to keep them in the loop, but the real players are you guys, Best Buy
And
and the assessor. And
I
us.
guess we should check with Jackson, the county budget officer, make sure it doesn't impact their. I don't think it's going to. Okay.
You got dollar signs moving in your eyes.
Respect.
Ours in the vote, there's.
The big problem is.
We love you. And you know it.
This one, we're gonna slow down today. That was maybe.
Yeah, do it quickly, I guess.
We got.
Yeah, do it.
It's not even that loud. That's-
So we need to get to an answer, but like.
Especially if we're going to get a no from anybody, we gotta know.
But it seemed like the assessor's the place to start, yes? Because if she's not gonna go along with this, then
Yeah.
In the company.
Sorry. Hopefully that doesn't bump out, okay.
Eric, can't let them sit together.
Since we only have about a month, maybe we touch base.
Yeah.
So we'll work on numbers on. We'll make contact and if you need us to be with you in some sort of meeting or conversation you want to have with Best Buy, please let us know and we'll be happy to do that.
The other thing I think we need to do is just list those, the top, pilots. When they're coming due and how we want to
Well,
look
you know,
at it, as long as we're doing the exercise.
Yeah, it's those three.
But
It's-
that's the statute requires us to now create a matrix
Right.
to give
Every pilot
everybody
that's
notice,
existing.
as these expire. 2 years.
Mhm. Lockheed's coming soon.
Hmm?
Lockheed's couple of years out.
Any other questions?
All right, yeah, I was just about to say anything else from you
If we
guys.
do, we
No,
know where
thank you,
you are.
appreciate it.
Yes,
Yeah.
many people do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for explaining this.
Take care, guys.
See you.
Good to see you. Yeah, take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
well, that was an interesting way to start your first meeting. But not usually this.
Just don't ask me to explain it.
Wow, listen, tax cap 30 years, still, it's like, oh.
I'm still trying to get my arms around it. All right.
All right, moving forward.
Okay, seeking a motion to approve the regular and annual meeting minutes for January.
Second.
Seeking a motion to acknowledge the financial.
Did you wanna say, Yes, or maybe?
Oh, yes, all in favor. All in favor. Opposed, carried. Thanks. You can motion to acknowledge financial?
And, points on the financials about what we're talking about.
No, I touched base with Christine earlier. It was fine.
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
I'm looking over as well.
Aye.
I
I don't enjoy it.
gotta get closer to John because he can't hear you. And Tracy can't hear either, by the way, so.
I can't hear anything, so.
So I
Oh,
passed
people.
around forms for acknowledgement of fiduciary duties and a confidential board evaluation. Mary, you don't have the eval, you don't need to do it. Eric, I already have yours on file, so you don't need to do
Yeah, I got
it.
mine.
And I have Marty's.
So just
So-
sign it and pass it in.
Yes, please. Just make sure you please do that before you leave tonight. We have a ED&P update from Leanne.
So hold on a second. So let's make an action item that you need to get with Leanne. We don't assume that that's just gonna happen organically. You will get with Leanne because she does have the contacts at Best Buy,
Yeah,
and that we would want her to work with you to get that nailed down.
okay. Yep, we'll do that. We'll work with Joe and Best Buy and the assessor and within the school board.
She's not here. She wasn't here to hear us, so.
Yep, will do. Great. Thanks, Marty. So the ED&P update from Leanne was distributed to all of you by email. Is it okay to get past that for next meeting? If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out to her directly, or I'd be happy to be a go-between, get some answers for you.
Yeah.
Okay. The updated cost spreadsheet basically just includes the addition to the payments made in January. We paid Aquastore for the tank inspection, $1,800. We paid Robinson $184,686. Their contract is done with exception of remediation in the spring, like dirt work. And that covers enough balance of their contract that their bond is still in place. Payment to John DeLola for the plowing of the tank roadway. There's one more invoice from him that we'll pay out before we're done. Veolia has taken over that plowing since they took over possession of the tank. And then we paid NICEAG for service to the tank. Veolia should be taking over that as well. And then we paid our private hydrant fee. So those payments have all been added under miscellaneous or the correct contract. So
Robinson gonna bill us more this month, or they have 100 grand worth of work?
I'm not anticipating them billing again until spring, as far as I'm aware. Maybe I'm missing something, maybe.
I just saw that number, it would remain, just seemed like a lot.
I think that is part of intentionally withholding so much from them to make sure they come back. Internal between them and Fagan, but I think it's on purpose. It's like retainage.
Well, retainage, it makes sense, just. Talk about the payout. Yeah, I got 100 grand, got 98 left, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is 10% roughly, so I mean. It could be just a fine.
I think that's why. I'll find out.
It's all right, I wouldn't ask him. To ask you to bill.
Bring anything up.
Well, hang on, but
Okay. Any other questions on this or? Moving on. So we have the invoice from Fagan. It's in your packet. The detailed invoice from them requesting 40,000 for all the construction management work they did, which they were not contracted to do.
This is the one we talked about last month.
This is the one we talked about last month. So we previously, we signed the contract. It was approved in April of 2021 by the board to sign a contract for the $20,000 construction management. Was only supposed to cover contract A, the site preparation by Robinson. So this page 2 of this invoice is all the work they did for us without being contracted and required to do so. Basically them stepping in and doing above and beyond.
Everybody had a chance to review this document. This is in the part. I mean, I was, not that I was skeptical, but these are the kinds of things I need to see before I
Yeah.
agree to anything. You know, this project's been ongoing long enough, in my opinion, that this got out of hand. This piece right here got out of hand. We were putting pressure on folks that weren't contracted to get pressure. That said, I do it again. But I'm much more accepting of this than last month.
Mhm.
You
Information.
know, after reading through this and, you know, again, it's been a long time coming. But where did this, we didn't contract with these folks to do these things. Where was this going to fall? Who was going to do this?
Well, so
How the heck did we miss this?
I questioned Leanne about this. And she said, but because it's been so long, at some point in time, we were given the option to hire, I'm gonna call it program manager,
Construction manager.
construction manager. And the short story is no, we decided not to do it.
Didn't we nix it out of Fagan's
Yeah.
contract?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
So the answer is, next time if we ever do this, God forbid, we will hire a contract manager. And none of our staff will have to get involved, and it will be all them, and we can yell at them.
You heard that, Eric.
100%. 5 to 8% off the top. Just figure out it's cost
Yep.
of doing business. Let them do their job.
We'd have been better off in the.
Money well
long
spent.
run if we'd have just said, yeah, let's just do that.
Yeah, so lesson learned.
Okay, we're down at construction manager.
Legal Gardens 3.
So.
Amen.
That if Robinson's involved or they.
All right, so we looking at this particular item and this invoice from Fagan,
Mhm.
and, you know, my review of this is, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Mhm.
You know, it seems like a lot of money, but I also know I've been sitting at the table listening to this for a couple of years now, and I think they're all in at that.
Yeah, and it
I'm okay with it, so I guess
probably should be a lot more than that.
Yeah, yeah.
what do we have to do, make a motion to
Yep,
accept
yep.
this?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Aye.
I,
Great. Thank you.
okay,
This is a calm meeting, Mary, compared to what we've been going through. Good, so.
well, you see who's chairing here, I mean.
Oh, there you go.
Or don't get out of line.
Okay,
Hey,
so
Joe, take it from there.
Joe is up next just to share a little summary of new laws affecting IDA.
Most of which I've already touched on in the earlier presentations. They're really all procedural. We have to give not only the same notices we gave of the deviation, we gotta do it with the little green cards. Because,
Well, the state's coming back again, they're gonna come back and,
so,
whether you
and,
don't like us.
you know, they're always tinkering with the procedural aspect. There was really nothing of substance. Other than the one change that when we look back right now, had they had it, we might not have been here in the position we are with Best Buy. Given the fact, I say no notice, but they were given notice when we terminated the pilot. We sent notice to them. We didn't send them the green cards, but I don't know what that would have been.
No, there's not a lot you can do about it.
No,
They're
that's-
going off, they're going. It's like Goldcraft and CBS. I mean, it's. You build your budget in a way that you know that you're gonna take a hit for you, because you're not gonna get 5%, right? You're gonna get 2. So plan on making up what you're gonna make up, have that in your piggy bank and keep your tax rates as even as possible. And that's just the way it works. I mean,
Just looking at
this
it.
wouldn't be the
ahead.
media Schmo County, right? I mean, where this is much nicer, you know what I mean, working with board.
Well, again, in reading some of the historical, I mean, they talk about big pilots down in Westchester County. I mean, I think they've had those issues and they've had,
Oh, yeah.
but what you end up with just bad blood between the IDAs and the school districts, and the school districts basically say,
No
we
more
will
pilots.
publicly blast every pilot application that gets put forward from this table.
But I mean, if we can use the 485Bs and stuff like that, it is a lot cleaner for everybody to do it. So I think, that, you know, pilots were a big thing, but you're starting to see a lot of people be very wary because when they do go off, there's a lot of complications. And I mean, that's a big one. The 3.3 million is a big one. Yeah, you know.
But it should force us to look at,
Again-
landing off these things. If you're gonna jump in, there's gotta be a way out.
Right.
And that structure up front, you know, once you know how that structure needs to be set up, you come into the pilot that way.
Right.
Knowing that in year 10, that
Right.
starts to happen, or.
And we should do that with all the pilots that we have in place right now. Start looking at them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you could even start them at 100 and back them down. I mean, the company might not like it, paying more.
Well, we could say that's what we're offering, but take it or leave it.
Kind of does it. for
Anyway.
you.
But I think there's gotta be a workaround. It's been happening for years. It's gonna happen for years to come, because I don't see the legislative.
Somebody has
process
done
taking
it.
care of it.
Somebody out there somewhere
Yeah,
has
I don't
has
know.
kind of
Yeah.
done this, or took it to court and found out you couldn't do it.
Right, yeah. Either way, there's.
Yeah, there's some.
Joe's got homework for.
Okay. Well, I
So
think.
that's basically it with respect to the revisions to Article 18A of the general municipal.
All right, so, thank you, Joe. Tioga County Chamber of Commerce is requesting IDA be a gold sponsor in the amount of $1,000 to support their economic forecasting forum in February. So we have, these are the topics they'll be discussing. And I'm attending, a lot of EDMP is attending. If any board member wants to attend, let me know, I'll register you. And they want us to contribute as a gold sponsor at $1,000. Now, we have not sponsored things frequently, but we did sponsor the Energy Summit held by Southern Tier 8 within the last year. Joe, is this fine for us to do?
Yeah, this is
time
fine.
you want?
This is community outreach, explaining what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it, you know.
Thanks. So you're just requesting whether or not the board wants to go ahead and support that.
I would support it.
We have no money to advertise that much.
I don't know, John, we got a lot of money.
Do we have the money?
I think we can. Yeah.
It's $1,000 today.
So we gotta get on every time you need a grant.
Well, we don't have the money. The money keeps-
He's the banker guy, right? Like, that's the banker guy.
Well,
I move that we sponsor and become gold sponsor for the project here.
I second it.
Okay, thanks very much.
I was just wondering what the procedure.
Okay, I attached this, I
Ask them
sent,
if they got a way to lobby the railroad. More,
Yeah, right.
more volume on the tracks. That would help.
No.
so I'm not gonna go over this, the DRI multi-site program fund, new guidelines being released for the DRI project that's technically under the IDA and administered by Brittany Woodburn. Basically, they're calling for project applicants to take the funding that's been relinquished by projects that dropped off. So they're gonna call for projects between 2 and 500,000. It has to be 50% owner match and 50% DRI money, and they'll administer that.
How much money did they have left come back?
650,000.
I mean, it was $10 million, right?
Yeah.
That was just a private project. That was just a private
Yeah.
people. that
That's like
wants to-
There's people who want to do all the paperwork. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
The match is so
Well, the other problem was that I know some of the locations, they're like, can't wait for this, I need it now. They just went ahead and did what they needed to do, so they didn't need the money. And, you know, it was gonna be available, yeah, let's do it, but when's it coming? When is that?
When's the money have to be spent by? When does it have to be spent down?
5 years?
Is it that
I
long?
don't know.
Well, I got bored of it when we-
Yeah, so it must be almost.
But it takes a long
Do
time.
extensions, right?
Yeah,
Megan?
for the multi-site, we had an extension till the end of this year.
23, does the projects have to be done?
Yeah,
So
well,
it's a tight window.
They gotta be built back probably by.
well, we can only extend 1 year at a time, so we were able to extend
So
to the end of
fees and
23, so
waivers,
technically
there's a
we can
window.
ask for another extension at the end of this year,
Alright,
but as of right now, yeah.
We want to turn your money back.
Thanks, Megan.
Okay.
Okay, so audits ongoing, the governance committee, Mary Townsend, thank you so much for agreeing to serve on the governance committee, audit committee, and finance committee. So I'm seeking a motion to approve appointing Mary to all three committees.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Did she get railroad too? Did she get railroad?
No.
Just got railroaded.
I think so.
I'll help you through it. It won't be so sales tax exemptions or all the companies are within their authorized limit. We sent out the public hearing transcript for the Best Bev LLC application, and I didn't attach that resolution. We are seeking a motion to approve the resolution approving sales tax exemption only in the amount of $362,360.
So what happened to the pilot?
So based on the fact that town, village, and county did not provide letters of support and a general sense of lack of support for property tax abatement, a conversation was had with the company discussing the alternative in which they receive sales tax exemption only, and their fee to the IDA dropped significantly from 260,000 to 26,000. So basically, their savings and fee counters their property tax savings.
Sure.
And
So we
equalizes
had that
out.
conversation.
That was the end.
We ended.
Yeah.
We talked that.
I'd just like to know how these
Yeah.
things work.
Second motion.
Aye.
I-
That's just a win for all involved.
Yeah.
Something beating that.
Okay, so the grant contracts have been executed and submitted by IDA, so we're good to proceed on the Richford Railroad FEMA grant and the ESD Hadley grant. Both of those engineering plans will be completed by Larson Design, so I'll be meeting with them this month to basically kick off getting going on both of those studies. And the ARC grant for preliminary engineering design on 240,000 square foot buildings in Lounsbury has been approved, so they're working on the contract and will get that to us soon. And then we can get plans and cost estimates to consider actually constructing.
How much was the grant?
Oh, we paid 26,000, 50%. They'd have to pull it up. It's like 53,000 and we pay half.
Match, right?
Yeah. Roughly.
Always a match anymore.
Mhm.
Oh, great. It's got what's in it.
Except when you're the school district. and they just take it on.
And so where are you now? Because I'm lost, because I have a question.
We're at the end of agenda, so
You what?
Right at the end.
we're at the end.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back and ask this question because I want to know about the process. So when did we decide to change the engineering design at the Lounsbury Industrial Hub from 4 to 2? I know you and I had that conversation the other day, but when was that decision made?
So when the developer that had interest in paying to construct the actual buildings after we did the outlay
Okay.
walked away, they were no
So
longer
then you
interested.
guys, all of,
Then Leanne requested authorization from the IDA to simply submit application to ARC for this study.
and but this board thought
We
2
we
rather
talked
than
about it.
4?
We're
Okay,
talking about it.
because I missed the
There's
meeting.
there's additional space beyond the 2 buildings, or it was deemed that there was a certain amount of green space on the front side, or
Yeah,
I don't remember word for word, but we
you
did.
guys talked about
There
it.
was
we did
something.
have,
Because I missed the step between 4 to 2 and thank you.
yeah.
Remember. Oh, I couldn't-
I remember that.
You can't remember what day it is.
Well, I was like, it was when we were meeting back in the auditorium,
Yeah.
probably during COVID.
It was gonna be the 12,000 buildings, but it was in phases, so we might not have ever gotten to that. Sure. Now we're at 240,000. So this, just to remind, this grant is just gonna outlay preliminary design and cost estimates, so then we can know what it would cost us to actually construct it.
That was where we were hung up. We were like, hey, let's build these, we don't know what it costs, whatever, but we were just
Mhm.
kind of moving. We said,
Right.
let's slow down and figure out what it would cost.
Right, and best case scenario, we'd sell the property just prior to doing a study and everyone would be happy.
Yep.
I like that scenario.
Once in a while, you know, light goes on. All right,
We're all done,
done with
regular.
motion movement executive.
So move. Aye.